Chapter 1. 1. Examination Space. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. Chapter 1. Examination Space. Claim your I was among the first 10 readers of this fanfic badge by commenting here. Now, let the new journey begin. Shit, why did you make me come to this point in time? In a civilian house in Amigakure, Ruji's face was full of displeasure. It was now the 59th year in the shinobi world, and the young people would graduate soon. As soon as they graduate, Orochimaru's Konoha destruction plan would begin. Immediately after, the kami Pain, who was now in Amigakure, would start the tailed beast capture plan. At that time, Amigakure would become the enemy of the whole shinobi world. How was a guy who didn't even have chakra going to survive the Fourth Shinobi War? This was the shinobi world, where people died, and clans perished. Ding! The examination system is bound. When he heard the name of the system, Ruji was confused. No way, I've crossed over to the Naruto world, and I still haven't escaped exams. It wasn't until Ruji looked at the entire examination system that he realized that he was the one overthinking it. This examination system wasn't for him to take exams, but to pull some people to the exam space and take the exam. To ensure the fairness of the exam in space, the whole process of the exam would be broadcasted live. There were 5 questions in each exam. Correctly answering 3 questions would mean a pass, and the higher the accuracy rate, the more generous the reward received. On the contrary, if one failed the exam, the examinee would have to face severe punishment and take a make.up exam. And to make.up, they would have to pay the make.up fee. As the system owner, each time the test was taken, Ruji could choose a part of the test questions. The system would randomly select the remaining ones from the question bank. Likewise, he may receive a percentage of the candidate's award or make.up fees. Knowing this, a glint of light flashed in Ruji's eyes. If he pulled Pain, Conan, and the others into the examination space and then assigned them some examination questions that would reveal the course of the future, then the shinobi world's future would definitely change. Without the Eye of the Moon plan, without Black Zetsu, Uchiha Madara, and others scheming, could the shinobi world enter the era of peace by then? He could also reveal Akatsuki to everyone, allowing everyone to improve. And by the way, take the paper angel Conan home to warm his own nest. Wouldn't that be beautiful? Just do it. Ruji opened the examination space, waiting for those who were selected to enter. At the same time, in a building at the top of Amigakure, Pain was in a wheelchair, with Conan standing behind him, looking calmly at the man who called himself Uchiha Madara. Behind the latter stood a guy with a huge Venus flytrap plant on his body. These two were none other than Uchiha Obito and Zetsu. At the moment, the two were pressuring Pain to execute the Eye of the Moon's tailed beast capture plan as soon as possible. Therefore, they brought Kakuzu, Sasori, Uchiha Itachi into the organization as early as 6 months ago. Now, Akatsuki had gathered all 10 renegade shinobi besides Obito. 10 Kage-level shinobis. The current Akatsuki had an extremely frightening combat capability. Therefore, Obito didn't want to wait. He couldn't wait for that world with Rin to happen. I got word that Orochimaru is about to attack Konoha, and when that happens, we can take advantage of the chaos to invade Konoha and take the Kyuubi Jinchuriki away. Zetsu's voice was somewhat eerie. The green leaves above his head swayed as he spoke. Pain calmly looked at the duo. The Rinnegan's ring seemed incredibly strange. But neither Obito nor Zetsu was a simple character. They acted as if they couldn't feel the pressure Pain exerted on them. Pain was just about to speak when a radiant light suddenly lit up among the crowd. The light converged rapidly as the crowd watched, forming a massive and incomparable portal. When the sudden portal appeared, Conan subconsciously stepped forward and stood in front of Pain. Behind her, a pair of paper wings instantly opened, and the explosive tags were raised, ready to detonate at any time. At the entrance of Amigakure, Pain, who was preparing to go on a mission with Itachi, suddenly stopped and turned his head and ran towards the top of Amigakure. Uchiha Itachi looked at the back of Deva Path Pain, and his eyes flashed a different color. After half a year's contact, Uchiha Itachi knew that the leader possessed the most mysterious and unpredictable, Rinnegan. He called himself Kami as if nothing in the world could make his indifferent eyes fluctuate. But just now, it was clear that something beyond his expectations had happened. He left without saying a word. And even Uchiha Itachi looked up. Somehow, the rain had stopped in Aim Village. Uchiha Itachi pondered for a moment. His two hands, under the black robes with red clouds, each made a seal. Two different jutsu were activated at the same time. Clone technique. Transformation technique. On the surface, Uchiha Itachi disappeared. But in fact, his true self had gone after Deva Path Pain. As the clone was left in his place, he left leisurely. At the same time, in Amigakure, 5 hidden figures opened their eyes at the same time and woke up from a deep sleep. They share the same Rinnegan and short black sticks for transmitting chakra stuck in their bodies. They were the other paths of pain, outside of Deva Path. The 5 figures rose up simultaneously, chakra raging around their bodies, racing towards the Amigakure above. Someone invaded. In Amigakure, the other members of Akatsuki felt the surge of chakra and immediately ran towards where it was converging. As the figures flew in, they stood in front of Nagato and Konan as if they were enemies. Deva Path aimed his hands at the light portal, ready to unleash God's realm technique at any time to repel the incoming attackers. Ashura Path was prepared, his wrists were bent, and a series of missiles appeared, ready to shoot at any time. The human path's hands were in the shape of claws, waiting for the incoming attackers. As long as the other party appeared, he would be the first to kill the other party in seconds, extracting the other party's soul and memory. And the animal path, Preta Path, and Naraka Path were surrounding both sides of Pain and Konan, paying close attention to anything that moved. At this moment, Pain could no longer care about hiding his real body and ability. He stared at the light portal with deadly eyes. He could hardly imagine that there was someone who could silently perform a jutsu on them all in the entire shinobi world. And it worked. How is this possible? Did the sage of the 6 paths do this? To be precise, in addition to him having the Rinnegan, there was also Uchiha Madara with Mangekyo Sharingan here. The Uchiha Madara. The once Shura of the shinobi world. On the other hand, Uchiha Obito, who was posing as Uchiha Madara, was seen by other Akatsuki members who arrived before he could hide. A new member. Another Sharingan. As soon as Deidara came in, he saw Uchiha Obito and his one eye, outside of the mask, and suddenly felt displeased. He joined Akatsuki and was caught by Uchiha Itachi's Sharingan. His hatred for those eyes was as strong as Orochimaru's longing for them. Madara. Unlike Deidara, Uchiha Itachi was pulled into Akatsuki by Obito, and therefore, Uchiha Itachi always thought that Obito was Madara. After all, the other party had helped him destroy his clan, and the only person with that kind of strength, in his knowledge, was Madara. At that moment, seeing Madara here surprised him. Didn't he say he wasn't joining Akatsuki? Could it be that the leaders got into a dispute? But compared to this, the disabled man who was being kept behind by the leader was the object of his greatest concern. To be protected by the leader. His importance was self-evident. Uchiha Itachi's heart stirred. He fanned his wings and landed on the beams of the building, watching below. The jutsu user isn't within 100-mile radius. Zetsu, who had disappeared at some point, burst out of the ground. His voice was filled with seriousness. He lived for thousands of years, living through the entire history and rise and fall of the shinobi world. He had never seen such a peculiar technique. He mobilized tens of thousands of white Zetsu and checked all the chakra fluctuations within a 100-mile radius but still couldn't find the wielder. This showed that either the wielder was more than 100 miles away or this was an existence beyond their common sense. For some reason, the moment Zetsu saw the light portal, he had the feeling that his thousands of years of preparation were about to be ruined. With so many people, do we have to be afraid of this thing? Kakuzu grunted coldly, and a tentacled creature with a ghost mask emerged from his back and walked towards the portal. Swoosh! A blinding white light flashed. In the next moment, everyone realized that they had arrived in a pure white space. Chapter 2. Live streaming. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. Live streaming. The Akatsuki group was carefully exploring this unknown space. This was a pure white space filled with thick white fog that made them completely lose their bearings. At the same time, huge screens suddenly appeared all over the world. Throughout the Shinobi world, almost everyone had a screen above their heads. Screens that appeared in places like Shinobi villages and nations, where people converge, were even bigger. After these screens appeared, they first flickered a few times, and then sound images began to appear. It was the view from within the examination space. The people in the examination space didn't know that the entire Shinobi world was watching their every move. Even their voices were very clear. In Konohagakure, the third Hokage, Sarutobi Hiruzen stared at the sudden images. His eyes looked grave. He dispatched Umbu to investigate the screens that suddenly appeared in various parts of Konoha. He believed that with Umbu's ability, he would soon get the desired results. As he watched, a group of figures wearing black robes with red clouds appeared on the screen. These people were both men and women, and without exception, all carried an extremely imposing presence. Kage-level powerhouses. Sarutobi Hiruzen shook his head. If for others, a dozen Kage-level powerhouses was a strong force, but for Konoha. But when did such a force emerge in the Shinobi world? Could it be a secret scheme from another Shinobi village? Just as Sarutobi Hiruzen wondered, a figure on the screen suddenly formed a seal with both hands and slapped his palm on the ground. Such sealing speed. Summoning technique. It failed. As a jutsu expert, Sarutobi Hiruzen had a veteran eye. The moment the other party made a seal, he could tell that the other party would perform a summoning technique. But what he didn't expect was that the other party would fail. Even the jutsu writings didn't come out. This low-end mistake could be avoided, even if it was Naruto up there. Is it the space? Sarutobi Hiruzen's heart sank. He narrowed his eyes to look closely at the shinobi. This shinobi was very strange. His whole body was shrouded in a black robe. Black sticks were stuck in his exposed ears and face. Even on the eyes. Wait. Eyes. Sarutobi Hiruzen suddenly stood up and looked into the eyes of the shinobi with horror. Rinnegan. These were the legendary eyes that belonged to the Sage of Six Paths. Sarutobi Hiruzen's face was solemn as he looked at the group of people behind the shinobi. He couldn't care less about a dozen Kage-level shinobi. But Rinnegan, he couldn't help but. This is impossible. How can there be so many Rinnegan? Sarutobi Hiruzen's horrified voice resounded through the Hokage's office. These dozen people were all Kage-level powerhouses, that was fine. But there were 7 pairs of Rinnegan. He was trembling, staring at the picture in front of him, dying to get into the screen to find out what was going on. As if it heard Sarutobi Hiruzen's yearning, the picture suddenly zoomed in. Like a close dot up, passing in front of each face. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Confirming once again, Sarutobi Hiruzen sat down feebly in his chair. He couldn't understand why such a terrifying power had appeared in the shinobi world. He rubbed his eyes and tiredly looked at the screen again, right into a pair of scarlet eyes. Mangekyo Sharingan. Itachi. Hiruzen was startled again. He didn't realize that, at this moment, his voice had taken on a shaky tone. He didn't expect that the organization Itachi told him he would join was such a horrifying one. The scene shifted again to a guy wearing a mask. He only had one eye. Sarutobi Hiruzen was just about to take a breather when suddenly, a blinding red light erupted from that one eye, almost causing the third Hokage to lose his breath. Isn't that Mangekyo Uchiha Itachi? On the training ground of Konoha Ninja School, a black-haired boy was coldly sparring with a fox-whiskered boy when he suddenly saw the figure of Uchiha Itachi on the screen. I'm going to kill you. In Sunagakure, Raza, the fourth Kazekage, stood at the village entrance and looked at the screen in the sky angrily. Behind him, there was a group of Suna shinobis who he had just reprimanded, all with their heads down. You bunch of trash, who can tell me who they are? Trash, trash. Somebody else is throwing a jutsu at your gate, and you don't have any response. And you're still telling me that you can't find anyone. Bah, a group of useless trash. Find them for me. Even if you have to dig the ground. Find them. The more Raza cursed, the more anxious he was. The Suna shinobi standing behind him didn't dare to look straight at him. Suddenly, among the shinobi behind Raza, someone recognized Sasori in the image. Sasori. Why is he there? Chiyo's grandson. Yes, that's him, that's his Hirako puppet. I fought him when he defected. Didn't he defect? Could this be the organization he defected to? It looks powerful. Listening to the voices chattering behind him, Raza's eyes narrowed. Bring the two elders to me. Tell them to give me an explanation. In a casino in the land of iron. A blonde woman brazenly pushed her chips forward. Open. 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 The woman felt something and looked at the image that somehow appeared overhead. Why is that guy up there? Forget it, whatever, o.org open, open. Ah, I lost again. Shizun, bring the money. Next time, I'll win. Such scenes weren't only happening in these places, but also in other places. Jutsu is invalid here. Seeing the animal path's futile efforts, Obito suddenly spoke out. Not only ordinary jutsu but time-space jutsu also couldn't be used. Itachi. Why the hell are you here too? Deidara suddenly made a sound in the crowd. The group looked at the sound and saw that Deidara was squeezing a few clay bombs and was aiming at Uchiha Itachi. Without a word, a big conflict was going to start. Red, is this illusion technique? Konan saw Uchiha Itachi appearing out of nowhere. Her pupils shrank slightly, and then she spoke as if nothing had happened. Uchiha Itachi had a pair of Mangekyo Sharingan that could see through most illusion techniques, and he, himself, was a master of illusion technique. No. Itachi had a calm expression. As a professional spy, even if an S.class forbidden technique were fired in front of him, he wouldn't change his expression. It had become a solid passive skill. It's just that, under his calm appearance, his heart already had great waves. Suddenly, footsteps sounded. Uchiha Itachi looked puzzled, and together with the people of Akatsuki, they looked back. Two figures were coming through the fog. The moment they saw the Akatsuki crowd, the two people visibly froze. A dozen figures in black robes with red clouds stood together, creating a tremendous visual impact. Chapter 3. 3. The Shinobi Worlds List. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. Chapter 3. The Shinobi Worlds List. Akatsuki. Orochimaru's hoarse voice rang out with 7-part surprise and 3-part scorn. Orochimaru. Akatsuki's crowd saw that the visitor was Orochimaru, and one by one, the corners of their mouths picked up into inexplicable smiles as they turned their heads to look at their leader, Pain. Orochimaru attacked Uchiha Itachi 6 months ago and defected from Akatsuki after having his hands chopped off by Itachi. They didn't expect to see him here. That's really clever. Sasori glanced at Orochimaru coldly, pulled out a scroll from his body, and looked at Orochimaru quietly. It seems that Akatsuki had gone to great lengths to catch me. Orochimaru sneered and took out his Kusanagi sword from his stomach, and assumed a fighting stance. He knew that he was in trouble today. After all, he couldn't beat the leader and Itachi, even in his prime. Not to mention now, there were other members of Akatsuki. Orochimaru knew exactly how weird the people who could join this organization were. First, find a way to get out of here, and as for Orochimaru, we'll talk about it when we get out. Pain said and turned his gaze to another place, where another figure also became clear. The untamed white spiky hair, a huge scroll behind his back, and a forehead protector with the word oil written on it. With a greasy face and untidiness. There was only one person dressed like this in the whole shinobi world. Jiraiya. Pain didn't expect that this space would pull him in as well. It seems that this wasn't just for Akatsuki. Sensei, behind Pain, Conan's body tensed up the moment she saw Jiraiya, and then, with a long sigh, her tense body slowly relaxed. Jiraiya was flabbergasted by the scene before him. Glancing at Orochimaru, who was also on guard, he thought. This wasn't Akatsuki's ambush for me because they found out that I was investigating them, right? Conan's voice was so weak that Jiraiya couldn't even hear it, but it was live. Streamed out of the space. Sensei. Did she just call Jiraiya Sensei? My God, Jiraiya-sama's disciple is so beautiful and powerful. But I never heard that Jiraiya-sama was accepting disciples. Bullshit. If you knew, the whole shinobi world would know. In my opinion, today's incident is in all probability the brilliant plan of our third Hokage-sama. Plan. Think about it, although it's peacetime right now, which other shinobi village isn't eyeing us? If Hokage-sama took the initiative to divulge Konoha's strength, combining reality and illusion to scare them, wouldn't it eliminate war in its infancy? Surprisingly, that makes sense. We are so lucky to have such a far-sighted Hokage-sama. Long live, third Hokage-sama. Long live, third Hokage-sama. Konoha, Root's headquarters. Listening to the cries outside, Danzo's face was incomparably gloomy. He didn't expect Sarutobi, that old guy, to let Orochimaru and Jiraiya take in students outside Konoha. No wonder Jiraiya never came back to the village. It turned out he was teaching Kage-level students. So, it seems that Orochimaru's defection and Tsunade's departure were both intentional. Sarutobi, I never thought your schemes were this deep. Danzo's two fists are clenched tightly. He had to be the next Hokage. He would never allow these two people to take over his authority. Never. In Iwagakure, Anoki, the current Tsuchikage, looked at the picture somberly. The village had withered. He had to continue to hold the position of Kage as the young generation had no successor for Tsuchikage. He was the oldest Tsuchikage, the most knowledgeable, and the best at conspiracy theories. Seeing this scene, he immediately decided that this image was Konoha's means to show their strength. However, he had to acknowledge the brilliance of that old man, Sarutobi, in choosing to reveal Konoha's strength at this time. Looking at the woman who addressed Jiraiya as sensei, Anoki was furious. Their Iwagakure also had a gifted teenager who mastered the unique secret technique, which was very powerful. He was the most promising person to become the next Tsuchikage. But. This fucking kid showed up on the screen. Deidara, you little brat, don't let me catch you. Above the clouds, Ruji saw that all the participants had arrived and waved his hand. Suddenly, in the white space, large letters began to condense. The space and rules here were introduced to the crowd. Examination space: after the exam, you will be rewarded or punished according to your score. No jutsu allowed in the examination space, and no fighting. Violators will be punished. After reading the introduction, the crowd had a thoughtful expression on their faces. They were all rebellious shinobis of the major shinobi villages, top powerhouses, who had long matured. Although their hearts scoffed at the punishment described by the space, none of them raised objections. Instead, one by one, they became interested in the lists in the space above them. According to the space, these lists collect information from the entire shinobi world, and the test questions for their exams were categorized according to the lists. Permission restriction. Only the top 10 can be viewed from the Shinobi's Pride list, the rest can't be viewed. Please take the exam and upgrade your permission. Open the Shinobi's World list. As the leader of Akatsuki, Pain didn't need to ask others for their opinions and spoke directly into space. Hey, this Shinobi's Pride list contains all kinds of lists in the world. I'd like to see where my name would be ranked in the top 10. Daidara's defiant voice sounded. His eyes looked at Uchiha Itachi provocatively. Itachi ignored it. Anoki, who was far away in Iwa village, nodded at Daidara's words. It's not that Daidara was bragging. His talent was indeed the strongest of the younger two generations of Iwagakure. Otherwise, Anoki wouldn't pity his defection. Anoki estimated that in the entire shinobi world, the number of shinobis with greater talent than Daidara wouldn't be more than a handful. Oh, you want to compete with him? In Konoha's training ground, Uchiha Sasuke coldly sneered. He didn't know who this guy was, acting more arrogant than himself. But he didn't deserve to compete with that guy. After all, even if he didn't want to admit it, it was his brother. Only he was allowed to challenge him. Under the nervous gaze of countless people, the Shinobi's Pride list slowly opened among the many giant lists hanging above the space. A golden light appeared on the list. Taking the giant list as paper, the light was the pen, writing down names one by one. The writing style was bold and vertical. The momentum could sink mountains and pull down the sky above. The handwriting alone overwhelmed the hearts of the crowd and filled them with awe. The overall look carried an unspeakable momentum and artistic conception. Number 1 strongest of the shinobi world. Otsutsuki Urashiki. Number 1 mother of the shinobi world. Otsutsuki Kagaya. Number 1 illusion of the shinobi world. Afterimage clone. Number 1 taijutsu user of the shinobi world. The noble green beast, Might Guy. Number 1 speed of the shinobi world. Yellow Flash, Namikaze Minato. Number 1 pervert of the shinobi world. Toad Sage, Jiraiya. Number 1 heroic person of the shinobi world. Senju Tsunade. Number 1 hardest to completely kill in the shinobi world. Orochimaru. Number 1 most filial son in the shinobi world. Black Zetsu. Number 1 most reckless ninja in the shinobi world. Uzumaki Naruto. Chapter 4. 4. Exam time. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. Chapter 4. Exam time. No, nothing. Kakuzu looked at the names and felt a little upset. He was waiting to see the number 1 longest lifespan in the shinobi world. Why wasn't it there? He had some expectations and wondered if the following list had the number 1 longest lifespan in the shinobi world. Is the exam the only way to get permission to continue seeing it? Impossible. I can't believe that Daidara, the number 1 artist in the shinobi world, isn't on it. This list is fake, right? Humph, don't be a bragger. Even if there is the title of the number 1 artist in the shinobi world, it's still mine. Sasori's puppet looked at the ranking above, discarded his emotions, and suddenly had a desire to leave his name on it. Mother. When he saw Otsutsuki Kagaya's name, Black Zetsu's eyes were filled with alarm. He never imagined that such a name would be on the list. He had already erased her from the shinobi world's history. He even destroyed the clans with his mother's bloodline over the years. Could it be that the guy on the moon was behind this list? Black Zetsu looked upward but couldn't see anything. The moment they saw this list, some in the shinobi world concluded even more firmly that this was Konoha's means of showing off their might. Others didn't know, but how could the 5 Kages of other villages not know? Between these 10 names on the list, Konoha had 7. The remaining 3 couldn't be confirmed as Konoha's people yet. Hep boring tricks. In Kumogakure, the 4th Raikage, saw this list and grunted coldly. A thunderbolt raged on his arm, directly shattering the table in front of him. Konoha, you're through. Is the number 1 taijutsu user in the shinobi world a great name that a little jonin like you can carry? Someone, notify everyone that in 3 days, I will personally visit Konoha's noble green beast. Tsunade-sama, your name is on it. In the casino, Shizun, holding Taunton, pointed at the screen in surprise. Tsunade looked up, and her face instantly changed. Old man, you've crossed the line. Shaking her head in disappointment, Tsunade sighed. Even if she didn't like it anymore, it was the place that her great-grandfather and grandfather had built. Shizun, let's go. Tsunade-sama, where are we going? Konoha. Ha. My name. That's my name. Ha ha ha. Uzumaki Naruto pointed to his name and shouted, causing the crowd to look at him intolerantly. I've really become a great ninja, ha 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 ha. How can it be you? You loser. That's right. It's just a guy with the same name. Meanwhile, at the entrance of Konohagakure, dozens of people have gathered at this moment, seeing the list and discussing it fiercely. Ha ha ha, see, this is the depth of my Konoha, the number 1 shinobi village. Yes, yes. The hearts of the people living in Konohagakure were filled with pride as they looked at the names on the list. Konohagakure is the safest. A strong sense of pride and satisfaction erupted inside. On the list, Konoha had everything. Konoha had 7 people out of the 10 positions on the shinobi world's pride list. This made this group of people living in Konohagakure feel incredibly fortunate. One slightly literate guy even shouted the following prose. The pride of the shinobi world, Konohagakure has 7. The Umbu who came back to resume orders didn't even notice anything unusual. Hearing the cheers from below, Sarutobi Hiruzen's face was getting more and more unsightly. He felt that someone was deliberately targeting Konohagakure. And wanted to provoke Konohagakure and other shinobi villages to fight and start a 4th shinobi war. Thinking of those weird pairs of Rinnegan, Sarutobi Hiruzen became silent. Sensei, the noble green beast. Might Guy. Is that you? On Konohagakure walls, Rock Lee pointed to the sky in shock. His eyes were full of admiration. Sensei, it says that you are the number 1 taijutsu user of the shinobi world. What? Number 1. Might Guy jumped up, placed his hand on his forehead, and looked at it for a while, showing his trademark smile. Yash. Lee, to celebrate being the first in the world, an extra 500 laps should be added to today's run. Yes. Watching Rock Lee run out excitedly, the smile on the corners of Might Guy's mouth faded as he gave a self-deprecating smile. Number 1 in the shinobi world. He wondered who was bored enough to make up such a list. After all, even if he had the 8 gates all fully open, he could only last for 8 minutes. And, in his heart, there had always been a green figure. He's the strongest in taijutsu. In the exam space, Pain scanned the list twice but still didn't see his name. Sure enough, the list of mortals wouldn't hold Kami's name. Suddenly, everyone in the space changed their expressions. The shinobi world's pride list was folded up. Then, the handwriting and images in the sky changed together. It's time for the exam to begin. What was the reason Akatsuki was destroyed before the Fourth Shinobi War? A. The unrealistic goal of peace in the shinobi world. B. It's too weak to resist the allied shinobi forces. C. Members of the Akatsuki organization took off their clothes in battle. D. Deception by internal members from beginning to end. Looking at this question, everyone was confused. None of them expected that the exam questions in the exam space would be so straightforward and explosive. Both the questions and the answers contained so much information. For a while, it left everyone at a loss as to how to answer. Will the organization be destroyed? Pain stared at the question with a deadly gaze. Blood began to fill his eyes. He didn't believe it, he couldn't believe it. Akatsuki was founded by Yahiko, the painstaking efforts of the three of them, and with him as a kami, how could it be destroyed? Just as Pain was about to explode, a soft, gentle hand gently rested on his shoulder. Before Pain looked up, Conan's voice rang in his ear. Don't be afraid. Nothing has happened yet. Hearing this, a burst of sharp light flashed in Pain's eyes. He instantly understood what Conan meant. My goodness, what kind of organization is this Akatsuki? The Allied Shinobi Forces. What is that? Could it be that the 5 shinobi villages would unite together? Impossible, this is absolutely impossible. How can I join forces with the shinobi of the Sunigakure when they killed my uncle? This question is insane, right? Why would they fight with the Allied shinobi forces to maintain world peace? Wouldn't that mean that the Allied shinobi forces are the bad guys? Some people were shocked and disgusted with some disbelief. Some of them had already seen that this question was about the future. After all, there was no sign of a Fourth World War happening yet. In Konohagakure, Shikaku and Shikamaru, father and son of the Nara clan, were looking at the screen in front of them. The shogi game on the table was half played. Shikamaru, what do you think of this question? It couldn't be the third one by any stretch of the imagination, could it? Shikamaru shook his head, and the tied-up hair on his head wobbled with him. We are all shinobis. If we take off our clothes in battle and die, wouldn't that be, well, too much of a joke, right? Nara Shikaku smiled. Shikamaru's thoughts coincided with his. Shikaku-sama, the Hokage-sama is asking for you. 2 figures leaped down from above and approached Nara Shikaku, arching their hands. Got it, got it. Tell Hokage-sama that I'll be right there. Nara Shikaku smacked his forehead, he knew that he couldn't avoid this kind of thing. Kirigakure. Seeing Konoha's depths, Terumi Mei once again felt anxious about Kirigakure's weakness. In addition to herself and Ao, there were no capable shinobi in the current Kirigakure. Even for advisors, only Ao could give her advice. Terumi Mei's beautiful eyes fell on the screen, her eyebrows slightly wrinkled, looking at the tall figure on the screen. Kisame Hashigaki. In fact, not only Konohagakure and Kirigakure but other major shinobi villages or organizations had summoned their advisors to study the information revealed by this question and answers. It's just that the more they examined, the more frightening they felt. Chapter 5. 5. Answer and Analysis. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. Chapter 5. Answer and Analysis. In the examination space, the Akatsuki crowd also snapped out of their shock and looked at their leader, Pain. They didn't expect that the leader that had the eye of 6 paths would be that crazy. Leading them against the entire shinobi world. Such a worthy leader. Kakuzu nodded with satisfaction, recognizing Pain's position as the leader from the bottom of his heart. As an old monster who survived the Warring States period, he always felt that his leader was too weak. He obviously had unimaginable power, but he didn't want profit. He never thought such a person would end up becoming a big threat. Kakuzu shook his head. He really would live long enough to see everything. He had long since become a monster after fusing with Earth Grudge, and as long as his 4 hearts weren't destroyed at the same time, he was an immortal being. Besides, it was a secret that he never told anyone. Kakuzu tried to eliminate all the impossible answers and finally was left with only one answer that he felt was the most irrelevant. If I die, I think we can rule out the 4th answer. At the back of the crowd, Uchiha Obito and Zetsu looked at each other without saying anything. Akatsuki would be destroyed. With the 2 of them in it, Akatsuki would certainly be destroyed. Then that option D was about the 2 of them. At most, adding one more. Uchiha Madara. Therefore, in their hearts, the 4th was the correct answer. Listening to Kakuzu, ruling out the 4th option, Obito and Zetsu looked at each other and read the meaning in each other's eyes at the same time. Kakuzu is a fool. Stay away from him later. At the same time, Uchiha Itachi was surprised to see option D. Has it been discovered? My identity as a spy is going to be exposed. He immediately turned alert. On the contrary, Orochimaru, with a smile on his face, looked at the question and answers. He didn't want to participate in the exam and knew that even if he did, he still wouldn't believe him with Akatsuki's leader's character. Anyway, he was no longer a member of Akatsuki, whatever the outcome. If Akatsuki was destroyed, didn't that mean that he would get a chance to get their eyes? Then it was better for them to get destroyed. It's better if they died. Orochimaru was prepared to find an opportunity to mark all these people, and when they died, he would pick up their corpses for himself. And Orochimaru licked his lips, his heart bursting with enthusiasm. Number 1 hardest to completely kill in the shinobi world. It seems that my research on immortality will succeed. If we have to make a choice, we can rule out the second one. With our strength, it wouldn't be difficult to overthrow the entire shinobi world, so why would we be afraid of some small allied shinobi forces? The one who spoke was Zetsu. After deep consideration, he was ready to help the crowd eliminate the second option since the correct answer had already been eliminated by Kakuzu anyway. Nobody here knew more about the shinobi world and its strengths than he did. He had 100,000 white Zetsus under his command, the weakest was at Chunin level, and the strongest matched the strong Kage level powerhouses. With the current power of the shinobi world, not to mention the allied shinobi forces, even if those people from the moon were added, they could be easily destroyed with the turn of his palm. If it weren't for the conditions for unsealing his mother, this shinobi world would have been destroyed 100 times over. In that case, only options A and C remain. No way, they're actually trying to overthrow the shinobi world. Haha. Haha, that strange leaf monster is making me laugh to death. The allied shinobi forces being too small. Overthrowing the entire shinobi world. Did he eat too much fertilizer and burn his brain? Overthrow the whole shinobi world. My Konohagakure is here, try it. It's just a frog at the bottom of the well. How could he know how vast the world is? 16 people. Including Orochimaru, there are only 17. They are the small ones, but they have big mouths. Shikaku, which one do you think is the correct answer? The third Hokage looked at Shikaku, who was frowning and pondering and spoke out to interrupt his thoughts. They saw everything that happened in the exam space. Every word spoken by the Akatsuki crowd was also clearly audible. The other party inexplicably ruled out B and D, which seemed ridiculous to the third Hokage, Sarutobi Hiruzen. He asked Shikaku for the correct answer. It was because he knew the answer to the question. Besides him, there was another person at the scene who knew. Uchiha Itachi. What does Hokage-sama think? The fourth option. A smile appeared on Sarutobi Hiruzen's face for the first time in a long time. Uchiha Itachi was his exclusive spy. Combined with the fourth option, Sarutobi Hiruzen could easily guess that Itachi and Konoha must have destroyed Akatsuki. It seems that it was his own cooperation with Itachi, took these people down in one fell swoop. This group of Akatsuki members was nothing much. I think Hokage-sama is correct. On the other hand, Pain looked at the two remaining answers. The unrealistic goal of peace in the shinobi world and Akatsuki members taking off their clothes during the battle, respectively. The goal of peace in the shinobi world will come true. That was Yahiko's dying wish. I will definitely be able to fulfill it for him. I choose C. The answer is C. What? He chose the third option. Is he stupid? Those circle eyes of his are consuming his IQ. Seeing Pain choose the third answer, a chorus of boos rang out from all over the shinobi world. How could the demise of an organization be so dramatic? Could it be that the members of their small organization would die if they took off their clothes in battle? Cut it out. How could mere clothing control a shinobi's life? Strip and die. Some shinobi shook their heads. They had thought this Akatsuki was a powerful organization. If you ask me, the correct answer is the fourth one. The guy in the wheelchair is so young. I'm sure the guy who just said they should rule out the fourth option lied to him. I think it's the first answer. Peace in the shinobi world. Don't be ridiculous. You go ask the fourth Raikage, the fourth Kazekage, Raza, and the Tsuchika Jinoki. Would they agree to peace? You said it. Wouldn't that mean destroying all other shinobi villages was just pacification? Anyway, our Konohagakure is the biggest shinobi village. We would destroy them, and they can't destroy us. Stop it, don't make noise. It's time for the results. I'm so looking forward to what punishment he'll receive for answering incorrectly. Correct answer. Do you want to see the analysis? Looking at the exam space's ruling, the shinobi world instantly fell silent, and everyone became unnerved. They had all kinds of answers, but none chose the third option. To highlight their wisdom, they were even more impatient to tell the crowd beside them the answer. Now, they were instantly hit in the face. The answer was C. How is that possible? Really? Stripping. It'll kill you. I feel that my IQ has been insulted. I want to check the analysis. Check the analysis. At that time, people who answered incorrectly in various parts of the shinobi world asked to see the analysis. But people in the space couldn't hear their demands. The space wouldn't open the analysis because of their demands. Standing on high for a long time, you know that the most unlikely things are often the most possible. Pain's voice spoke proudly. Then, he turned his head to the crowd. The 6 paths of Pain lined up behind him, 7 pairs of Rinnegan all together stared at the crowd behind him. With a sneer on his lips, he said, "What do you guys think? Do you want to view the analysis?" Hearing Pain's words, a drop of cold sweat dripped from Zetsu's face. Obito's palm turned wet. Itachi blinked, his pupils opened. Space, show me the analysis. Chapter 6. 6. The analysis that shocked everyone. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. Chapter 6. The analysis that shocked everyone. Since the death of Akatsuki's previous leader, the new Akatsuki leader, Nagato, awakened his Rinnegan ability and inherited the dying wish of making the world peaceful and became Pain. After the Fourth Shinobi War, shinobis of the world put aside hatred, developed together, and the shinobi world eventually moved toward peace, so option A is incorrect. Option B is a trick answer. This question is about the time before the Fourth Shinobi War. The Allied shinobi forces occurred in the Fourth Shinobi War, and the question does not match the timeline. So, in the Fourth Shinobi War, the two, Zetsu, and Kabuto, stalled the Allied shinobi forces, which was not in line with a single side. Option D is a confusion option. Although various parties have deceived Akatsuki, the deception of insiders wasn't the direct cause of Akatsuki's demise. Option C: Akatsuki's Rei, Akatsuki's Sho, Akatsuki's San, Akatsuki's Hoku, Akatsuki's Gyoku, Akatsuki's Byaku, and Akatsuki's Genbu all had their red cloud robes destroyed when they died, and Akatsuki's Shu wasn't wearing a red cloud robe when he died. Therefore, this option is the correct answer. Note: it's referring to the Akatsuki members' codenames based on their ring's character. Rei equals Pain/Yahiko, Sho equals Deidara, Sen equals Haiden, Hoku equals Kakuzu, Gyoku equals Sasori/Tobi, Byaku equals Konan, Genbu equals Zetsu, Shu equals Itachi. Boom. 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 It was as if a series of thunderbolts exploded in their minds, especially for Akatsuki's group. Looking at the code name symbolizing their own names on it and the proclamation of death, they forgot to speak for a while. All of them were powerful shinobis, long accustomed to combat and death. But now, when they were still alive, they were already sentenced to death. What a terrible thing this was, and what a terrible ability. Orochimaru's vertical pupils had shrunk into a line as he read the analysis carefully several times. Sure enough, he wasn't in it. Ku was his code name in Akatsuki. He couldn't figure out how such powerful Akatsuki members died. But it was still all of them at once. Shocked. 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 Looking at the analysis uploaded on the screen, everyone that was eagerly waiting for it was shocked. What great power was this? Predicting the future, predicting death, and even reverting the future. No one believed that these Akatsuki people would make the same choices as they did in the past, knowing the outcome for themselves. Besides, this was only the first question. Everyone understood that the next 4 questions would reveal more information. For a while, everyone was more excited about the questions that followed. They were eager to know what would happen in the future. Why did the Shinobi world achieve peace after the 4th Shinobi World War? Also, what was the cause of the 4th Shinobi World War? Was it similar to Akatsuki, who wanted to maintain peace in the Shinobi world? Also, who was Akatsuki? Who was Kabuto? How could the two of them hold off the entire allied Shinobi forces? And what the heck was all this about? Stunned by these questions, the crowd no longer had the energy to probe into the exact cause of death and internal deception of Akatsuki members. They couldn't wait for the Akatsuki members on the screen to start the next question. They were eager to know more information. They wanted more clues. They were going crazy. Suddenly, I'm looking forward to the reward or punishment for their exam. In Konohagakure, those words suddenly rang out from the crowd that had been stunned by the analysis. It made everyone sober up a bit and curious at the same time. Yes, if all this was true, what would be the reward mentioned by such a magical examination space? S.Rank Jutsu. The wealth that couldn't be spent even for a lifetime. Or was it something else? Someone. Go get Danzo and the 2 advisors. In Hokage's office, Sarutobi Hiruzen's face was covered with frost. The analysis brought too much information. Big enough to overturn Konohagakure's status as the #1 shinobi village. There was an immensely powerful enemy in the future who compelled the shinobi world to unite. Combined with the analysis of option D, Sarutobi Hiruzen was sure that this member, who deceived Akatsuki, had something to do with that enemy. There must be a connection. He also finally understood that Akatsuki wasn't an existence that he and Itachi could overthrow by working together. 2 people could hold back the entire allied shinobi forces. He only had one Konohagakure, how could he compete? Kabuto. Sarutobi Hiruzen shook his head. That name was the same as the name of a genin from his own village, who had repeated several years. Regrettably, how was it possible for a guy who could achieve that kind of success in the future to be a mere genin now? Ah, how good it would be if such talent was really from our village. Seeing the analysis of option A, Danzo, who was sitting at Konohagakura's root, finally remembered. He finally remembered who this Akatsuki was. He finally knew why the girl called Jiraiya-sensei. It turned out that these guys in black robes with red clouds were from the organization that he and Hanzo of the Salamander were jointly targeting. In other words, these guys are now in Amigakure, right? A flash of killing intent passed through Danzo's eyes. He was the root of Konohagakure, responsible for all the darkness in Konohagakure. Those restless guys. If I can't use them, then they shouldn't continue living. Exam space, is there a more detailed explanation? Haiden and Kakuzu spoke almost simultaneously. They both looked at each other and saw the shock in each other's eyes. In a sense, both of them were immortal. How could they die? Could it really be because they took off some clothing? That was too ridiculous. Forget it. Whether it's true or not, they should go back to the cave and get a few more clothes. At best, it would still be useful. If it was useless, then it was all nonsense. Kakuzu had decided to put one on each of his 4 masks when he returned, just in case. When Pain heard the words from the 2 of them, his mind moved, and he quickly opened his mouth. Space, is it available? In the end, he added, only the last 2 options will do. What? The last 2 options. Obito, Zetsu, and Itachi all physically shook slightly at the same time, not expecting Pain to still be thinking about the 4th option now. What for? What for? Everyone is going to die, and you are still thinking of who is lying. Insufficient permissions to provide. If you get full marks in the exam, you will be rewarded with watching videos related to the exam questions. Related videos. The 3 who were just about to put their worries down raised them again. The 3 narrowed their eyes and looked above, once again feeling the great power of the space. Could it be that this space was capable of not only peering into the future but also forming videos of future events? Never let the space play the video. They had to prevent them from answering all the questions correctly. Fortunately, it wasn't about getting the majority. Even if there were 3 left correct, they still had a wiggle room to mess up too. Deep inside his mind, Uchiha Itachi thought that if it weren't for the inability to use jutsu here, he would have used the illusion technique on the whole crowd. Not getting the answer he wanted, Pain's eyes flashed with disappointment. Fortunately, there were surprises. As long as he answered all the questions correctly, he could see the related videos. Then, he would know who was the traitor in Akatsuki. With that in mind, Pain was already a little impatient. Exam space, continue with the questions. Chapter 7. 7. Itachi. Such bastards. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. Chapter 7. Itachi. Such bastards. Question 2. Which of the following characters is not an undercover agent from Konoha? A. Conan. B. Uchiha Itachi. C. Six-Path Pain. D. Uchiha Obito. Silence. Pin drop silence. Dead silence. Pain's 7 pairs of eyes stared at the answer to the second question in unison. His hands clenched tightly, and his fists turned white. That's impossible. No way. He just couldn't figure out why his and Conan's names were on it. Whether he was an undercover spy or not, how could he not know? Was Conan an undercover spy? How could he not know? Since Yahiko's death, they've only had a grudge against Konoha. Conan still held a tinge of gratitude for Jiraiya, but today was her first time seeing Jiraiya since they parted ways. But. This second question, no matter how they choose, was stating the fact that 3 out of 4 people were spies. What the hell was going on here? For a moment, Pain was confused. Such bastards. Amazing bastards. Fucking amazing. Uchiha Itachi had a huge shock in his heart. He didn't expect Konoha to be so fierce. In Akatsuki, there were only a dozen people in total. And including Orochimaru, numbered only 10. And 3 people from Konohagakure had infiltrated. Even the woman beside the leader was a spy. Not bad, third Hokage. Worthy. Such a veteran schemer. But Uchiha Itachi frowned and glanced at the masked guy on his left. Uchiha Obito. Dot. Dot. Why is my name on it? Obito couldn't believe it. Except for Zetsu and Madara, who had died of old age, no one should have known about it. He hadn't seen or heard of that name in over a decade. Unexpectedly, today his, Uchiha Obito's identity was exposed by the exam space. It's just that. He didn't expect it, he really didn't expect it. 4 people on the list, except him, were all Konoha spies. Uchiha Obito sighed faintly in his heart. He thought that his identity had already been considered as a spy, but he never thought that in Akatsuki, the major players were all spies. Members of Akatsuki were spies. The leader of Akatsuki was also a spy. Who was playing who? Obito shook his head in his heart. No wonder, in the end, all these people died, and only Zetsu was left to start the 4th Shinobi World War. I think it was my future self who discovered their identities and killed them all. Danzo, your people. Sarutobi Hiruzen took a puff of his pipe and looked at Danzo with an amiable face. He didn't expect that Danzo would be as far-sighted as he was, having placed spies in the most dangerous organization long ago. Such far-sightedness, such planning. Not bad for an old buddy of his. Alas, I would have added you to the Hokage candidates if the Hokage position hadn't been made unavailable to you. Ha. A flash of suspicion passed through Danzo's eyes. He didn't understand why this Sarutobi was pretending with him. Konan, Pain and the teenager who he killed were all Jiraiya's students. They were the 3 orphans that Jiraiya took in at the end of the battle in Amigakure. Wasn't it obvious whose people they were? His only remaining eye narrowed, looking at the name above. He had figured out the real leader behind Akatsuki. It's that Uchiha Obito. The real answer to this question could only be Uchiha Obito. As for the Uchiha Itachi, Danzo knew that there was a relationship between him and Sarutobi Hiruzen. If not, how could Uchiha Sasuke stay safe and sound in Konoha? Danzo, you did a good job this time. I didn't expect that you had grasped Akatsuki's leader. Sarutobi Hiruzen looked at Danzo with a smile. Can you tell us how you got hold of him? Sure enough, it's Konohagakure. Anoki had his hands behind his back. Below him, there were dozens of advisors of Iwagakure. His son Kitsuchi and granddaughter Kuratsuchi were all below. No one in their Iwagakure could match the wisdom of Konohagakure's Nara Shikaku, but there were many of them. Father, if it is true that Konoha secretly controls this power, then... Kitsuchi's simple face was somewhat fearful. If what was said on the screen was true, the Akatsuki group could easily overthrow any shinobi village. And if Konoha controlled this power, then Konoha. Everyone agreed to fight and develop together, but they secretly colluded with a powerhouse. Anoki was about to speak when a shinobi eagle came in through the skylight above the council chamber. Tearing off a cloth strip from the ninja eagle, Anoki read it twice. The corners of his lips lifted. Kitsuchi, get ready. In 3 days, we are going to Konoha. Kitsuchi froze and was about to turn around to get ready when he heard Anoki added. In 2 days, inform Konoha that I, Reikage, Kazekage, and Mizukage, are going to visit the Hokage in Konohagakure. In Konohagakure. Uchiha Sasuke saw this question and became distressed and worried. No matter how he thought about it, Itachi must be an undercover agent. Would he be killed by those people when his identity as an undercover agent was exposed? Don't die. Uchiha Sasuke stared at the screen, be sure to live long enough to let me kill you. This question. Ha 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 ha, I don't care if the question isn't answered. I want to laugh at the thought that Akatsuki members are all spies. At the entrance of Konohagakure, a group of people watched the live broadcast with laughter. They found that they were already falling in love with this thing. The life of a shinobi was inherently boring, except for the daily training and missions. The only entertainment was making children. Now, finally, there was something more enjoyable than making children, and that was watching the live broadcast. It's too damn funny. They were all shinobis taking a break today, and they had a certain understanding of shinobi's deception techniques. Although deception techniques couldn't be called truly going undercover, but this Akatsuki being infiltrated like this was indeed the worst they had ever seen. This was really worth following. Nagato. Conan nudged Pain, snapping him out of his frozen state. Nagato looked up and found that everyone in Akatsuki was looking at him. Those eyes were amused, sympathetic, mocking, and no fluctuation at all. Pain met all the eyes and smoothly found the ones with no fluctuations at all. Uchiha Itachi. Shu, what do you think of this question? Heh heh. The rest of Akatsuki enjoyed themselves and had a good laugh. Everyone's eyes turned to Uchiha Itachi, following Pain's words. They didn't expect the leader to start with Itachi first. It seemed that when they got out later, they would be able to watch a battle between Rinnegan and Mangekyo. Heh heh. In the minds of the crowd, this question was a send-off question. How could they mistake an easy question like this? The leader asking Uchiha Itachi for his opinion was nothing more than a threat and humiliation. Between crackles and their stares, Itachi knew that he had been exposed. But he didn't panic. There was even a desire to laugh out loud, and laugh rapturously. Because he had long thought of a good statement. Leader, I am indeed a spy. Just as the words left Itachi's mouth, he immediately felt an angry gaze. Itachi was a bit surprised to see that there was also his own teammate, Hoshigaki Kisame. Swish. A figure appeared in front of him, sharing part of the pressure for him. Itachi glanced over and walked right past Jiraiya to meet the crowd's gaze. He now wanted to take on all the hatred but couldn't be involved in anything with Konohagakure's Jiraiya. I initially joined Akatsuki under Uchiha Madara's orders, and since Uchiha Madara is from Konohagakure, I could be considered a spy for Konoha. However, I haven't passed on any messages to Konohagakure yet, as my teammate, Hoshigaki Kisame, can testify. Rather, this man. Uchiha Itachi turned his words and pointed to Uchiha Obito, wearing a mask on the other side. Leader, this person is far more harmful to Akatsuki than anyone. Because he's that fourth option. Uchiha Obito. Binge. Raw link in synopsis. Chapter 8. 8. I, Obito, admit that I was a little panicked. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. Chapter 8. I, Obito, admit that I was a little panicked. Am I right? Uchiha Obito. Uchiha Itachi slightly gnashed his teeth. He wondered why he had an extremely uncomfortable feeling when he came in contact with this guy. It turns out that he was a fake. Uchiha Madara was a fake. Uchiha Itachi looked calm on the surface, but his heart sank to the bottom. This Obito, who approached him in the name of Madara, also helped him eliminate the Uchiha clan. What was his purpose? And if he's fake, then what was the reason behind the destruction of the Uchiha clan? Was there something he didn't know? Uchiha Itachi no longer dared to think about it, but he knew that this space wouldn't let him and Akatsuki off so easily. From the first question to the second question, he had discovered it. The questions from this space were changing from encompassing everyone to specific people. That was to say, as long as it was related to Akatsuki, many secrets, whether it was the whole shinobi world or individual, would be ruthlessly dug out and made public. No one could escape it. This was one of the reasons why he admitted to being a spy so blatantly. He's Uchiha Obito. Akatsuki's eyes shifted from Uchiha Itachi to Uchiha Obito. They weren't familiar with Uchiha Obito yet. In Uchiha Obito's own words to Pain, it wasn't time for him to join Akatsuki yet. Therefore, right now, he hadn't entered Akatsuki under the disguise of a comical shinobi. After all, Sasori wasn't dead yet, and his Gyoku ring was still firmly on his hand. Humph, Itachi. Don't you know who I am? Don't forget who helped you to destroy the Uchiha clan. I'm Uchiha Madara. What? Bang. Looking at Danzo, who was still stammering, Sarutobi Hiruzen slapped the table in front of him. The good feeling towards Danzo that had just risen instantly turned into nothing. That night, you let others in beside Itachi. With two eyes already glaring to the limit, the third Hokage looked at the two advisors who were chilled to the bone. You knew about this, too. The more Sarutobi Hiruzen thought about it, the more frightened he became. Danzo had dared to let the suspicious Uchiha Madara into the village. How dare he? Sarutobi, listen to Danzo. He will explain it to you. Sarutobi, for that matter. Humph, Sarutobi Hiruzen, you're getting more and more cowardly. Danzo grunted coldly. In his opinion, without using Konohagakure's power, he could eliminate the restless Uchiha clan, so why not? Good. Very good. The third Hokage laughed angrily. Don't forget your advisor position. I am the Hokage of Konohagakure. In an instant, the atmosphere in Hokage's office was unbearably oppressive. Don't forget, who helped you destroy the Uchiha clan. Don't forget, who helped you. Don't forget. Don't forget. As if countless thunderbolts rattled through Sasuke's mind, one after another, like lightning striking the ground, he was dazed and confused, his eyes disoriented. His vision slowly blurred, and his whole body fell backward. Before he completely passed out, he also heard the mockery from the loser. Ha ha ha. You can't beat me, can you? I'm powerful. Ha ha ha. I beat you. I'm the #1 reckless shinobi. Everywhere in the shinobi world, everyone jolted at the sound of Uchiha Madara's name. They never thought they would hear this name while listening to Akatsuki's drama. No matter how long time had passed, this name, whenever they heard it, they felt the pressure. Any ninja in the shinobi world could be ignorant of the Uchiha clan, ignorant of Konohagakure, and even be ignorant of how to refine chakra. But absolutely no one was unaware of Uchiha Madara. Because it represented not only a person, a legendary shinobi, but also an era. That sentence. Do you want to dance? No one knew how much blood had been shed from each village. Madara, could it be? He is still alive. Impossible, it's impossible. No one could live that long. But, he's the man who built the hidden village era, with the first Hokage. Inevitably, he mastered techniques beyond our comprehension. That's impossible. Senju Hashirama is dead. How can he still be alive? That's it. He and Hashirama both died together, so if he's still alive, doesn't that mean that Hashirama is also still alive? So, what if in the final battle, he obtained Hashirama's cells? Anoki's voice instantly silenced the advisors of Iwagakure. They were all people who had access to all kinds of secrets and knew, of course, what the Hashirama's cells represented. Those were the cells that could multiply infinitely. Indeed. The possibility of immortality exists. Looking at Pain, who was deep in thought, Uchiha Obito secretly uttered some curses. He knew that both Pain and Konan had been suspicious of his identity. Konan, in particular, had repeatedly advised Pain to cut off contact with him. She also threatened him, even if you are Uchiha Madara, I'll make you pay the price if you harm Akatsuki. But, on the one hand, Pain wanted to use the Madara's power. On the other hand, he felt that he was powerful enough to suppress Madara. But at this moment, if he found out that he wasn't Madara, Uchiha Obito was sure that pain would instantly strike him. This kind of headstrong person hated it when others deceived him. It wasn't that Uchiha Obito was afraid of fighting the other party. After all, he had the Mangekyo Sharingan and had a strange space-time jutsu. Kamui. If he couldn't fight, he could still run, right? Besides, he was accompanied by Zetsu, a guy that he, himself, couldn't judge how powerful he was. Others didn't know Zetsu's details. But how could he not know? Uchiha Madara's creation before his death could be regarded as Madara's shinobi way. Obito even suspected that this guy possessed the ability to leave this space at any time. He glanced at Zetsu and saw the two huge leaves on top of the Zetsu's head move gently as if nodding unnoticeably. With their eyes facing each other, Obito seemed to see something in Zetsu's gaze. Obito, don't panic. I got this. Sure enough, he had the means. There was a smile under Obito's mask. Why is Obito looking at me? Zetsu froze, his body shaking unnaturally. The leaves on top of his head swayed, and his puzzled eyes looked at Obito. Seeing Obito turn his head and look at pain, Zetsu's heart trembled. Damn, this guy's attitude. He's not going to keep his mouth shut, is he? This matter had come to this point. Is it useful to keep my mouth shut? They would get the answer and the analysis, not to mention who knows what would be asked in the following questions. He would only suffer if he kept his mouth shut now. The bigger picture is more important. Moreover, it's not like there are no other means. So, why should I keep my mouth shut? Shouldn't we learn from Uchiha Itachi's disaster? Obito's rating in the Zetsu's mind was lowered again. It seems that after Uchiha Madara's eyes were given to him, he really went blind. Why did he find such an unlucky thing like Obito to complete the plan for him? If you admit it, others may still be afraid of Madara's cleverness, thinking he had hidden things in your body to accomplish great things. But if you don't admit it, you'll be directly exposed. Zetsu shook his head. If Obito were exposed, he would inevitably not be able to continue working with Akatsuki. It seemed that the Eye of the Moon plan must be delayed. Anyway, Uchiha Madara was 6 feet under. There was no concept of time there, which was precisely what he had the most. He decided that when he escaped from this space, he would immediately leave, moving far away. Wait for the influence of this space to pass, or wait for the shinobi who knew about it to die, and then continue to plan. Obito, this man, no way. I really can't use him anymore. Chapter 9. Everyone panicked. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. Everyone panicked. I have a hunch that this one-eyed guy isn't Uchiha Madara. Certainly not. Look at his cowardice. With Madara's temperament, if people were suspicious, he would have long asked these people if they wanted to dance. Why is he still talking nonsense? In other words, if this person is that whatever Uchiha Obito, isn't he also considered a survivor of the Uchiha clan? Bullshit, didn't you hear? He destroyed the Uchiha clan, together with Uchiha Itachi. The Uchiha clan is so ruthless. They're all just ungrateful bastards. Then that orphan in our village wouldn't. Don't talk nonsense. Since he was left alive, and the meaning from the higher ups. Just don't mention it. Don't talk about it. In fact, to put it another way, the Uchiha family aren't pitiful people. It's just that their feelings were too narrow. This group of people gathered at the entrance of Konohagakure didn't realize that on the wall, not far behind them, a guy dressed in black and wearing a white cat mask was faintly staring at them. He quietly looked at the screen above the crowd without moving, as if he was made of stone. Whether you're Uchiha Madara or not, Uchiha Obito is the spy for Konohagakure. Hoshigaki Kisame grunted coldly, not wanting to continue to watch them go it back and forth. All his life, he hated spies the most. But he won't ask others to do anything. He would only ask himself not to cross the bottom line. That was his bottom line and his shinobi way. In his mind, a shinobi should be pure. If he was captured to keep the information a secret, he was willing to die. So, at this moment, he was the angriest in the crowd. His eyes shifted from Conan, whose face was as cold as ice, to Pain, who was sitting in a wheelchair. "Leader, this traitor, are you taking action, or should I?" As if feeling the anger from its master, the Samahata behind Hoshigaki Kisame untied its bandages, jumped from his back, and opened his mouth towards Conan. Killing intent condensed in the space. Above the space, Ryuji excitedly looked at the farce below. He knew that replacing Orochimaru with Conan, the correct answer was more distressing to Pain. "Sorry." Ryuji ruthlessly looked at the deadpan Pain below. He didn't think Pain could choose the right answer. This question was just an ordinary one for others. Straightforward thinking would peg Pain as the correct answer. But for Pain, this was torture. Believe in yourself, reality, or friends. People are selfish. Especially now, when Pain was bent on taking revenge on Konohagakure. Looking down at the Samahata that bared its teeth at Conan, Ryuji made a motion of smacking it aside. "Bastard! Whom are you yelling at?" In the exam space, Samahata that had its teeth out had an indescribable sense of crisis enveloped it. Its front end touched the ground and gently sniffed a few times as if it smelled danger. A loop of bandages quickly wrapped around it as it rolled and ducked back behind the shark. Man. Kisame saw that something was odd with Samahata, but before figuring out what's going on, a thick fog-like palm came down from the above space. Boom! The huge palm that was formed from the thick fog was very fast. It directly fell on the shivering Samahata. Samahata couldn't resist it and was instantly shattered. The powerful force came down, Kisame's body shook, and a mouthful of blood gushed out. Before he could react, his flesh shattered with a bang. A trail of blood splashed in all directions in the shape of a sharp sword, landing on the others and making the red clouds on the black robe even redder. Kakuzu, who was closest to Kisame, suddenly felt a burst of warmth, followed by a flash of red in front of him. He reached forward, and a bluish scrap of face skin appeared in his hand, carrying a large amount of shredded flesh. "Kisame." Kakuzu shuddered. The earth grudge in his body suddenly contracted, and the four hearts trembled at the same time. He didn't expect Kisame to die like this. That was Hoshigaki Kisame. Known as the tailed beast. He wasn't even sure if he could do it himself, but now. Dead. Other Akatsuki members were also horrified. At the moment, there was some minced meat and blood on them, but they couldn't think of wiping it off yet. Or rather, they didn't even dare to move. Pain, in particular, had the most genuine and strongest feelings. 1 second, Kisame was still shouting at him, and the next, he was turned into mincemeat. He didn't even see how the space had struck, and the guy was already gone. If this thing was aiming at me, could I dodge it? No, he simply couldn't. Pain wasn't the only one who thought so. The other Akatsuki members had the same question flashing in their minds. Uchiha Obito, in particular, was really afraid. He almost made a move just now. Lucky. Very lucky. He remained reasonable. It was a good thing that he chose a heated debate instead of persuasion by force. Obito's heart was full of gratitude, and he told himself over and over again. Absolutely. 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 Never start a fight in this space. Fuck. Too much power. Above, Ryuji slapped his own forehead. He didn't expect that the punishment force of his own exam space was that powerful. He took advantage of the exam space's power to casually strike and blow Hoshigaki Kisame to bits. If only he had the same amount of strength. Ruji knew that he used too much force because it was his first strike. After all, these guys below were shinobis, not pirates. Each one was a veteran and sly. Since entering the space, each one looked more obedient than the other. There was no chance for Ruji to show his strength. Finally, a dog jumped out to cause trouble, offering himself up for sacrifice. Ruji just wanted to establish authority and didn't really want Kisame to die. After all, right now, Kisame was one of Amagekyu's powerhouses. Hoshigaki Kisame interfered with the discipline of the examination room for the first time and warned once. Shit. 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 Someone died, and it's still saying it's a warning. In Kirigakure. A tall, thin figure looking at the screen suddenly cursed. He wasn't cursing the space because it killed Hoshigaki Kisame. That guy would die by his hands, sooner or later. If you kill him, you kill him. What did Samahata do wrong? It was just a shinobi sword. What bad intentions could a shinobi sword have? Mizukage.sama. AO at Terumi Mei's side made a terrifying noise. He was so shocked that his transplanted Byakugan automatically opened. Blue veins stood out at the corner of his eye, looking dreadful. Let's cancel the plan. Terumi Mei waved wearily. Kisame, this short-lived guy. She was discussing a plan to welcome him back with AO, but they didn't expect him to die so soon. Kisame defected because of a failed attack on the previous Mizukage. He had no conflict with her, and there was no harm to the village. He was a good shinobi. In fact, since she took office, Terumi Mei had been looking for traces of him, but they couldn't find him. When they finally had information, and before Terumi Mei was able to contact him, he died. Is it impossible to restore the glory of the past to our village? Terumi Mei rubbed her forehead, suddenly felt tired, and even the voice was full of fatigue. From this point on, the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist are no more. Chapter 10. 10. Rewinding Time. Izanagi. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. Chapter 10. Rewinding Time. Izanagi. In Sunigakure, seeing that Hoshigaki Kisame was killed in one blow, the 4th Kazekage, Raza's face suddenly changed. One strike. Killing a Kage-level powerhouse. And even with more than a dozen Kage-level people around, Hoshigaki Kisame failed to leave a complete body. That's terrible. Unlike others, he had fought against Hoshigaki Kisame and understood his strength. That's a scary guy who could summon a waterfall in the desert. He could fight with himself in the desert, resulting in a draw and leaving in one piece. That guy had more strength than an ordinary Kage. But that same guy died in one strike. Did this mean that he, himself, wouldn't be able to withstand a blow from this space? Thinking of this, Raza once again looked at the screen above, and his eyes were filled with dread. Please be conscientious in maintaining discipline in the exam space. As the big words above disappeared in the space, a suction force suddenly appeared among the group. The faces of the Akatsuki crowd changed. In several flashes, they shifted their original positions and looked in disbelief at the heart that had appeared out of nowhere. The heart pumped. Thump, thump, thump. Full of vitality. As the heart beats, a series of blood vessels, tissues, and veins appear around it. In the blink of an eye, a human form has been outlined. The human form was blood-red, without any flesh and skin. Only the most basic veins and arteries were there, looking very bizarre. Could it be? The Akatsuki crowd was viciously shocked and looked in horror at the blood and flesh floating off their own clothes. Sure enough, under the inexplicable pulling force, the scattered blood and minced meat floated up from where they were splattered to and floated to the blood veins that formed a person's silhouette. This scene caused the Akatsuki crowd to freeze completely, not knowing what to say or do. They felt as if the blood in their bodies was going to freeze, and all the hair was standing up. They felt if they dared to move their bodies, the goosebumps on their bodies would fall. This wasn't something a normal person could do. This was God. God. Lord God. Haydn knelt directly on the ground. His hands were open, embracing the sky. He bowed again and prostrated himself reverently on the ground. Such a miraculous blood and flesh sacrifice. Such a monstrous blood and flesh offering. Compared to this, my proud ceremony is simply ugly. He was shaking violently, and his mouth was muttering very fast as if he was the most devout believer and the most insane Jansenists. He pulled out the decorative knife from his robe. With a swish, 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 he cut off all his limbs, letting blood flow, forming a circular sacrificial pattern around his body. Haydn was constantly losing blood, and his body gradually turned grayish-white, like a dry corpse or a zombie. But strangely, his eyes were getting brighter and brighter, as if he had witnessed and understood something. At the same time, looking at the space, Hoshigaki Kisame's constantly reconstructed body and Haydn, who performed the Jashin ceremony, everyone in the shinobi world fell into silence. Especially the major shinobi villages. They thought they paid enough attention to this inexplicable space, but they still underestimated it. They thought they had paid enough attention to Akatsuki, but they still underestimated it. Rewinding time. Resurrecting the dead. Those who have broken hands and feet but could be healed quickly, but this. For a time, all those in the shinobi world had such thoughts. Was this something a jutsu could do? Izanagi. Seeing Hoshigaki Kisame's resurrection, Danzo was even more convinced of his initial suspicions about the exam space. Combining the answer to the second question, Uchiha Obito. Danzo already had a new answer. Since Obito was the leader behind Akatsuki, the dark hand in the shadows. And Uchiha Obito, being the bloodline of Uchiha Madara outside of Konohagakure. Then. This space must be the result of Uchiha Madara's Sharingan. Although the information recorded about Uchiha Madara's pupil technique wasn't like this, however. After so many years, even an idiot shinobi could master new abilities, not to mention that demon Uchiha Madara. In that case, it all makes sense. Danzo's eyes flashed with light. He finally understood. He understood it. How this space could reverse time. Why would Uchiha Madara help Itachi attack Konohagakure? That's because Uchiha Madara wanted to collect a lot of Sharingan like him. His purpose for collecting Sharingan was for this space. And the best hard evidence was, through the entire shinobi world, only this one jutsu was capable of modifying time. What a big move. Danzo coldly snorted in his heart. Unfortunately, you met me, Danzo. Madara. I've seen through all your schemes. I'm going to make my own plans. This is the forbidden art of the Uchiha clan, Sharingan Izanagi. You. What did you say? Sarutobi Hiruzen almost thought he misheard. That technique. Izanagi. The technique filed in the Jutsu scrolls. Change history and rewrite the outcome against you at the cost of permanently sacrificing Sharingan. But now that the Uchiha clan was gone, only a few with the Sharingan remained. Uchiha Itachi, Uchiha Sasuke, Hatake Kakashi with one Sharingan and that one-eyed guy. Sarutobi Hiruzen's brow wrinkled. He wanted to refute Danzo, but when he thought of the strange situation just now, he kept silent. His two old eyes blinked. A sense of exhaustion suddenly appeared from the bottom of his heart. He didn't know how much more this space would shock him, but he understood. He really was getting old. He's resurrected. Chiyo in Sunagakure calmly said. Ebizo beside her squinted and finally nodded his head. Yes, he's resurrected. Fuck. Is it time to talk like this? Also, what's with your affirmative tone? Raza looked at two old elders who didn't look surprised at all and growled in his heart, but he didn't dare to show his anger. He told the two advisors to come, asking them to explain the situation to him. And along the way, let them open up more to accepting him. But who would have thought that after they came, they only took everything fucking lightly. Oh, there's the Sasori kid. Well, sis, it seems that Sasori is having a good time. Then, I am relieved. Fuck. 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 Raza couldn't treat them like ordinary shinobi. If not for the status and strength of these two, Raza would have torn them both up long ago. Unfortunately, these two old guys had the means to restrain him in their hands. In fact, what Raza didn't know was that the two elders didn't show any surprise because they also had the means to revive the dead. Although, this method was costly. I was revived. Kisame looked at his hands in shock. He was clearly slapped to smithereens by that fog-dot-like palm. Even the unimaginable pain he had just endured was still fresh in his mind. How come I'm still alive? He felt something shaking on his back. Hoshigaki Kisame looked back, only to see Samahata that was bound by bandages, shaking violently. It can be seen from the strange wobbly movement that this guy was trying to suppress his own shivers. What happened just now? Seeing that everyone was far away from him, as if he was a wild beast, Hoshigaki Kisame couldn't help but ask. You were dead. Sasori's voice trembled a little, something that would have been impossible. After all, his current body was Hiriko, in other words, a puppet. The puppet's voice simply couldn't tremble unless Sasori, who was controlling Hiriko's body, was also trembling. But you came back to life. Daidara's palms were trembling. It was obvious that he hadn't calmed down either. Not to mention them, even Pain, Obito, or Uchiha Itachi, looking at the resurrected Kisame and Samahata, the calmness on their faces had long disappeared, leaving only shock and bewilderment. Konan covered her hand with her mouth and looked at the resurrected Hoshigaki Kisame. Suddenly a flash of light passed through her mind. Resurrection. Resurrection.